Hello there. My name is Dr. Gerald Higginbotham. I serve as the Prime Minister and Governor for the American Slave Nation. I represent the 21 million descendants of American slave here in the United States, and it is by choice. I wanted to today just take a moment and say to the American slave nation people that I'm humbled and honored by this request that was given me about 10 years ago. And whenever I take assignment on, I do my best to give it my all in all. And I know that some say, how do you get the position? Well, Dr. Norris Shelton, the president of the American Slave Inc. 501(c)(3), he took time out of his schedule to look at business, how business is being done. He was a businessman, and he saw the culture in Louisville, Kentucky, just struggling. And he went on a journey to look at what is really wrong. And in his journey, he saw that the American slave, uh, well, he was calling us black at one time, but after his research, he said, we got to do something differently. And so he incorporated a company called the American Slave Inc. American Slave Inc., he tied it back to corporate America through in Louisville, Kentucky. He registered the company and it brought it all back together. And then he started a research, started doing his research. I'm a little nervous because today I didn't, I'm just doing it. Because if you hold back, you don't get it done. And I decided, you know what, I'm stepping up. We have all these, we have the YouTube channel, we have books, we have information that can really free our people from the condition that they're in. I said, I'm going for it today. And I'm hoping those that do hear this message will join us in this endeavor to help save our people, to help save our culture. Dr. Shelton has written 25 books, technically now 26 books. He's finishing up his last one here called, I think it's going to be called Why Wait? And you can find these books. You know what? I'm going to put up this website here so that you guys can go out there. It's called slave uh, usa.com. I think it's important for you guys to know what this gentleman has done to really to help the American slave culture move forward. He didn't have to do it. First off, if it was me, if I was Dr. Norris, I may not have done this, but he has dedicated his life to trying to help his people. He's 87 years old right now, 87 years young, and I'm so proud of him. I'm so glad I've had the opportunity to study under him for almost 12 years now. He really will be considered a living legend. No, he is a living legend right now, but he's going to leave an awesome legacy for future generation. He is the father of the American slave culture. He deserved that title because he figured this thing out. And some people have come along trying to take it from him, but you can't take what God has given you. What this man has done, and I appreciate him so much. There he is for really dedicating his life. He has spent every penny of his awakening hour trying to help the American slave culture. Who would not want to help a brother that's trying to help you? And he has blessed my heart with his work. And for you guys, if you come out here to slave-usa.com, look at books, and you'll see the many books that he has really, uh, the books he has put together I just want to talk about a couple of the books. America's Little Black Book. I believe with all my heart, this book is going to be called The American Slave Bible. It is very well documented, and it talks about the birth of the American slave culture. I encourage everyone to get it. The other book that I'm using right now is The American Slave Inc. Renaissance Plan. We've got to have an A, B, C, D, E, F, G process to lift us out of the condition that we're in. I know having been a pilot, I use a flight plan every time I would go flying. And I see the Renaissance plan as just that. It's the plan that will raise the American slave culture from depression and ignorance and restore them to intelligence and profitability. It is an excellent plan. And right now, good news is that, we needed 1.2 million. Dr. Shelton has been trying to raise 1.2 million for the last, I don't know, 35 years and he has been unsuccessful. And I always ask the question, why? Why isn't, I said, the money that I've made over my career, I could have sponsored this thing. But the culture is supposed to do it. Corporate America is supposed to do it. The philanthropist is supposed to give up money. The 501c3 organizations were invented for the American slave culture. But because the lack of leadership and the shamefulness of the word slave, we have not moved forward. But the good news is I've located a person, a philanthropist, that's going to give us 1.2 million so we can launch the first American slave business incubator sometime in the first part of January of 2025. So I'm excited about that. And I'm telling you, it's over. Once you get the first one up and running, the rest will fall like dominoes because the Culture Business Incubator will teach about our culture. It will have all these books. All these books will be a part of the incubator. I mean, I'm so excited. And the book that I'm reading right now, I'm reading The Seventh Seal. It explains what the future holds for America and the slaves that America bred. We all need to get that book and begin to read it. We need to get all of these books for our library. This man here has spent his entire life writing books to recreate the paper trail of American slavery. We owe this to him to get the books and read. Matter of fact, what I like to do, I'm starting to read out of this book here now, The Seventh Seal. And I just want to read a little bit to you. I need to put on my glasses. Y'all, I'm not as young as I used to be. We need cheaters. So I'm gonna put on my cheaters, and I really like this book here. I started reading it here. Today I said, you know what? You just got to do it. I've got so many books in my office from, my friend uh, Joy DeGruy, Post-Traumatic Slavery, and I've got all kind of books that I read because I love reading, because the readers will be the leaders. But in this book, The Seventh Seal, I want to read just a little. He said, in my search to help my people, yes, I did find a way to revitalize the dream of American slaves' quest. Man, I got all kind of bells and buzzers going off in my office. But that I did find a way to revitalize the dream of American slaves, the quest to be free. But that was just the beginning of what I set out to accomplish. My ultimate mission is to carry out Dr. Martin Luther King's last order. He told Negroes to engage the economic battlefield. When I heard this order, I wasn't one of his lieutenants. I was just a lukewarm follower, and like other Negroes who only heartedly supported Dr. King, I figured after he was assassinated, one of his lieutenants would take the reins and give further direction. Years passed, but no direction. Dr. King's lieutenant had obviously fumbled the ball. Question: what was Dr. King really trying to tell us when he instructed Negroes to advance to the economic battlefield? The United States Army trained me to kill American enemies when on the battlefield. But the Army never said anything about an economic battlefield. Dr. King stood for nonviolence. Now he is telling us to go to a battlefield? His message was terribly confusing. Was Dr. King advocating violence? While I was trying to figure out what Dr. King meant by such an unusual phrase, our culture name was changed from Negro to African American. Now, in addition to figuring out what the word economic battlefield actually meant and where such a vineyard might be located, I had to figure out who our people really were. Dr. King called us Negroes. Negro was an extension of the labors that was bred in America by Americans for economic purposes. America christened the labor slaves and classified them as animal. During this period of confusion and enlightenment, I started my first business venture. The first thing I heard is that the economic battlefield is the business sector where economics wealth is created. This could only mean that the slaves America bred was born on the economic battlefield. Their entire existence, even when misidentified as Negroes, colored, Black, and African American, have been on the economic battlefield. Nonetheless, when studying the curve of economic evolution, the name American slave is not part of the American economic evolution curve. This revelation gave me a starting point and steered me in the right direction. Plotting my course, my first step was the Secretary of State in Kentucky, where I legally incorporated the American slaves and documented the American slave culture on America's economic roster under our identified given name, slaves. I named the foundation corporation the American Slave Inc. This reconnects the American slaves to America's economic foundation and connect the descendants of American slaves to American slaves. The paper trail of slavery is once more being documented. Now comes the hard part. Trying to make Black leaders understand the significance of America's economic battlefield in regards to who we are, and at the same time, selling America a plan that will rectify the negative aftereffect of slavery. Once I get these two tasks accomplished, descendants of American slaves will start coming unstuck once the dots are connected. The American slaves will become beneficiaries of slavery instead of just benefactors of American business. This selling job is problematic for several reasons. Number one, slavery is publicized as the most heinous crime ever committed in America. Number two, slavery was committed by the ruling white culture. Number three, the outcome of the crime of slavery hasn't been determined yet. These facts tell us that resolving slavery is no longer about right or wrong. It is about rectification. We've spent too much time pointing fingers and being angry about who's right and who's wrong regarding slavery. No, regarding slavery already. It is time to get down to business and start negotiating a peaceful outcome of slavery. Because of the false pride and unwarranted shame, Americans don't like to talk about slavery in realistic terms. Subjugating human being is unpleasant. In-house issues that spark raw emotion. Just the mention of slavery at the right time by the wrong person could result in a highly explosive situation that could erupt worldwide. Realizing whites are tired of talking or taking the bitter medicine of accusation and blame for enslaving human beings, my job became to sweeten the rectification cure so it would meet their taste. To sell my plan, I must go against the grain. I must stop people from dwelling on the pain of slavery by revealing the good side of enslaving human beings. I must dispel my myth that slavery in America was bad. Slavery wasn't bad. Slavery was very good. In fact, very good. The good side of slavery is displayed in plain sight for all to see. We just don't understand what we're looking at. I searched until I found a way to assist descendants of American slaves in achieving true freedom. It took some time doing, but I found the pathway that leads to the American dream. My first published work, America's Little Black Book. It is an examination of the very essence of my people. It has already been dubbed the American Slave Bible. As an alternative to slavery being totally covered up, the good side of slavery is hushed up, and for good reasons too. Business persons who could tell us the truth of how great slavery was, really was, and still is, are afraid to speak up because wealthy Americans who hoard more wealth than they will ever need would have to pay up. Rather than pay up, they hush up and hope no one ever again utter the word slave or slavery. The beneficiary of slavery lavish in the luxury aftereffect of human suffering every day. They hope Black leaders keep right on thinking slavery was horrible. Seeing only the bad side of slavery, Black leaders would never expose themselves seeking payments for our people being the byproduct of something so horrifying as enslaving human beings. This only goes to show that ignorance controls the cover-up of slavery. Younger generations, Black and white, don't realize slavery ever happened in America. They therefore cannot conceive that American slaves still walked among us. Our young are being programmed to pass this ignorance on to future generations, guaranteeing that racial ignorance and cultural degradation remains allied perpetually. The cover-up of slavery hides American slaves and hush up the fact that the descendants of American slaves represent corporate America. I'll say that one again. The cover-up of slavery hides American slaves and hushes up the fact that descendants of American slaves represent corporate America. The seed business that nurtured America into being the most powerful country in the world was the business of slavery. Many of tomorrow's thriving businesses, foreign and domestic, grew from the breeding and enslavement of American slaves. Rising on the back of the American slave culture, American business evolved highly efficient. American slave, the culture that was bred by American business to bear the burden of building business in America, evolved also, but terribly inefficient, misunderstood, and totally misrepresented. Just like America is still evolving efficiently, the slaves that America bred are still evolving inefficiently. We must now decide in which way we'll confuse leadership angry slaves evolve. We must now decide in which way we'll confuse leaderless angry slave evolve. Do we want American slaves to become what we portray them to be on TV? Criminals, lowlife, deadbeat dads, and cracker haters? Should American slaves be recognized as a worthwhile people, or should they be recognized as worthless beggars and troublemakers? Should the people that contribute their blood to help build America be allowed to become a part of Americans' economic record? Or should we keep this group shrouded in ignorance and degraded and in degradation? Ultimately, the question is, how do we want the America to look in the future? Even if genocide is the ultimate fate of the American slave, exterminating an entire people will surely leave an everlasting stain in the fabric of America. This book is written to change the mindset of America from being negative about slavery to being positive about America's future and the American slave existence. A positive outlook will help all Americans to better understand slavery and its comprehensive consequences. The underlying strategy in the Seventh Seal is to jumpstart America's mentality and energize our minds so we can start thinking at full capacity. The tactic is to initiate change by using reverse psychology. Instead of focusing on the dark side of slavery, look on the bright side of a better tomorrow. Instead of speaking negative about slavery, speak positive. Brag that slavery was the greatest thing to happen to America, simply because it is true. Slavery worked. Look at America, beautiful, rich, proud, and strong, and mostly because of slavery. A lot of credit for the success of slavery is attributed to a white fellow by the name of Willie Lynch. Records show that he sold slave owners a mind-altering program that transformed American slave mindset from hostile to docile. In a passive mental state, he knew the slaves would function more efficiently while helping to build America. My job is to sell America, the American slave. My job is to sell America, the American Slave, Inc. Renaissance Plan. It will alter the mindset of slave descendants while upgrading the mindset of all Americans. Descendants of American slaves are subservient, forgiving people. If the plan is instituted properly, whites will be pardoned for the crime of slavery. Wealthy Americans will still retain their wealth, and descendants of American slave mindset will be shifted to a higher level, from a slave mentality to a free mentality. Blacks and whites would both benefit. We would finally be able to proceed into the future without further racial conflict. I'm going to stop there. That is the seventh seal. I want to encourage you to get the books. Knowledge is power. And what Dr. Shelton has done, he's taken the time out and put the information down. We owe it to ourselves to get the information and apply it in our lives and apply it in the next generation life. I'm sold out on helping you be the best that you can be. That's why I do this. My name is Dr. Gerald Higginbotham. I serve as Prime Minister and Governor for the American Slave Nation. I'm also the Senior Vice President for the American Slave Inc. 501c3. I'm doing all that I can do to help our people. But it's going to require you to step up and do your part. Together as a team, we'll make it happen. I'm going to come out here next week, or maybe in a few days, and read a little bit more. We need to use the tools, the platforms, so we can help elevate our people to another level. It's been said, my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. So abundance of knowledge can restore us. And the good news is that Dr. Shelton has written 26 books now. Take time out to go out to slaves-usa.com. View the website. Buy a book. My time is up. I thank you for yours. All right, peace and blessings to you.